Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of The Etiquette Guy. I'm Jay Remer, your host, and with me today is Mary Rogers. Welcome back to the show, Mary.
Thank you, and I must make a comment on this beautiful sweater. I love the color of your sweater.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, this is, I don't know where I got that. Some fabulous boutique like Marshall's.
Oh, well, there. Well, that's very good on you. Great color.
Yeah,
Great
it's
color.
an unusual color. That's why I bought it. And the knit is different.
Yeah.
But at any rate, today,
Yes.
we're going to talk about written communications. Because there are a lot of questions come in about, do I have to write a thank you note? Can I use email? Can I send a text message? Can this be handled on the telephone? It's really important to understand when it's appropriate to handwrite versus send an email or a text message, or to use social media for that matter, because there are a lot of those are all different ways that we communicate using the written word. So that's the topic for today.
Great. Well, what I've done is, with all of the questions, I've more or less grouped them into categories. So right now we'll talk about the handwritten form of written communication.
Okay.
And some of the questions, I'll just reel some of them off. Some people just want to know, how do I start a written communication, or like a handwritten note? What do I say? Or what do I say? What kind of stationery do I use?
Right.
How do I begin?
Well, I think there's certain things. If you're going to send, if this is, say if this were to be, say, an invitation, then invitations for the most part come pre-printed, or you either can buy a standardized sort of a formatted invitation and you fill in the blanks, and that's fine. Or you can go to the engraver and have a wedding invitation or something like that engraved, and that's fine. But I think that you want to make sure that no matter what you do, you check to find out what is required of each invitation. And there are plenty of resources available. Any stationer will have the resources. And really online today, if you look up addressing envelopes or forms of address or wedding invitations, it'll give you the choices. Some are more traditional than others, but at any rate, that's where you can get a lot of good information, and that's where to begin. Guessing about this can lead you into a direction that can wind up making you look foolish. So I think that finding out exactly what it is that you need to do is the place to begin. Now, I find that hand-addressed envelopes are opened before printed envelopes. So I would strongly encourage anyone sending out an invitation, a thank you note, a sympathy card, a letter of congratulations, anything of a personal nature, or anything that you really want to make sure gets opened first, hand address it.
Oh, nice tip.
Yeah. And if your handwriting isn't very good, you have two choices. Either practice it, and honestly, practicing handwriting, it doesn't take that long to remember how to write properly. Although I'm aghast, I'm told that I think it's in the US now, they don't teach cursive handwriting.
No more cursive, no. I've heard that too. That's even in the Canadian system now.
Well,
Oh,
a little birdie is telling me that school boards are debating it. However, I have it on good authority that some school boards have already decided that they don't have time to teach it, and so they don't, which I find fascinating, because that's just the way we were taught how to write. And there are people who are, you know, maybe from your generation even, that are not being taught how to do this properly. And I know the kids today, I mean, they're not even taught how to print, so I know they're not teaching them how to cursive write. But at any rate, you can either learn how to do it properly or printing. Neat printing is perfectly acceptable, and but you must have a friend that can help you address envelopes. You know, I mean, there are companies that do this, so certainly people have friends. Oh, Susie has the best handwriting. Well, Susie might address a few envelopes for you as a friend, you know.
You could turn it into a social event, couldn't you?
Well, it could. So I think that using handwriting is important. Now, if you're going to write a thank you note, a sympathy card, or any kind of a personal letter, I think they should be handwritten. People don't use typewriters anymore, and if you type something off on the computer and print it off, it's typed. You know, even though you can use funky fonts and all of that sort of thing, a handwritten letter. Oh, there's something about putting pen to paper that has an energy about it that you cannot duplicate with a computer. There's just the feeling of the written word is different. Mm-hmm. So before you write the letter, think about what you're going to write. Now, most people don't write well spontaneously. They need to actually write it out, then edit it, and then write it out again, and then they'll smudge something, so they'll have to write it out again. Yeah. Hence the reason why a lot of people shy away from the handwritten, because it's a pain in the neck and you make mistakes. Well, when you get to a certain point in life, the mistakes are all part of the deal. So you just scratch out and move on. That's what I do anyway. And nobody's ever said boo. I said, you know what? Be thankful that you got the letter to begin with. But I do think that it's important to do this. And the more we do it, the better we get at it. Mm. So if you go to somebody's house and they have a particularly nice dinner party, send them a note. It only has to be 3 lines. Mm. Just say, "Dear Mary, thank you so much for including me in that marvelous dinner party the other night. I so much enjoyed meeting, you know, so-and-so who maybe have been the guest of honor, or maybe some they'd never met, but they struck a chord with. You know, there could be any number of things." And that's the end of it. I look forward to seeing you again.
Jay.
Yes.
Or Mary.
Love, Jay. Sincerely, Jay. Yours truly. Your sis. Whatever it might be. Mm. But if it's Dear Mary, or which is what you do when you write. Mm-hmm. It's you could do Hi, Mary, but that would be better just to do Mary or Dear Mary than something else. So you want to make sure that you end the sentence, end the note the same way. Okay. So if you say Mary, put J at the bottom. Okay. Or if you put Dear Mary, then yours sincerely, or sincerely yours, or yours truly, or whatever you might want to put. Okay. There are certain, in business now, there are certain addressing protocols that are used that have a corresponding closing way of going. And I think that it's important, if you're writing a business letter, you should have at your desk a forms of address book. There is an excellent one out now that I actually edited the Canadian section for, but it's written by a good friend of mine named Robert Hickey, and he is Deputy Director of the Protocol School of Washington, and he has written a book called Honor and Respect. And that is the current Bible for how to address anyone from a sergeant first class, or not even a sergeant, but you know, the lowest of the military ranks, all the way up to Her Majesty the Queen or the Pope. So, and everything in between. And it deals with lawyers, it deals with doctors of all different kinds, because you know, doctors is a big topic that people get confused all the time, because there are doctors of everything these days. There are honorary doctors, there are doctors of this, that, and the other thing. And the only people that are referred to as doctor outside of their profession are medical doctors. The rest of the people are referred to as Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Ms. is the preferred way of dealing with women today in the written form. Unless it's, you know, your maiden aunt, well, then she'd be Miss. But there are not very many misses left in the world, because they're either all dead now, or they are under the age of 8 and they don't probably get involved with too much correspondence anyway. Ms. is the way people are referred to in business. And so that's, which is fine. But I think getting all the facts straight is important, and having a resource like Honor and Respect is really helpful. You can also find a lot of this in Emily Post or any of the etiquette books that you may happen to have kicking around. And you can find a lot of it online. But find out how to do it correctly. Don't guess.
No.
I mean, people constantly writing me, well, how do I do this and how do I do that? Well, I just tell them how to do it. Sometimes I have to look it up myself to make sure that I'm absolutely correct. Because in different countries, things are done differently too. So if you're sending a letter to a foreign dignitary or even a foreigner who has a degree of some kind, whether it be a clerical degree or a medical degree or a doctorate of some kind, it's all very different exactly how things are done. So you want to be sure that you do it right, and there's no reason to slip up on that.
Apart from it looking neatly, like the penmanship being neat, what kind of a pen? Is there a type of pen color that you should
Well, typically
use?
blue ink is what's used for writing notes, and black or dark blue ink is what's used for business. I think, and black or dark blue would be, those would be the colors of choice. Red tends to be still reserved for editing or for, you know, sort of whimsical notes. It's not as easy to see. So if you really want to. Now, as far as the type of pen, a lot of people don't use real ink anymore because it's messy. And even, I mean, it gets all over you. And it can. If you're not skilled at exactly how to do it and practiced, it is going to be, it'll be a big mess. I use a very comfortable ballpoint pen myself. I like the ease with which the ink flows out of the end of it because we all write at different speeds. I write fairly quickly, so I want one that the pen keeps up with me. I don't want to have to be slowing down, excuse me, just because the ink is not coming out fast enough. So I think picking a pen that you really like, and maybe it's something that someone gave you as a graduation present. You know, you can learn to kind of get used to these things, and then you have a connection with a pen even. You know, there's a whole ball of energy around connecting with other people, and written communication is a form of connecting with other people, and it's a very important part of being alive. And so having it your way is good. And if it takes a little practice to figure out what words to use or how to connect a Q to a T, well, you would never do that, but a Q to a U, then, you know, just practice it a few times. I mean, I learned all of this in the first grade. If I learned it in the first grade, there isn't anybody out there that can't learn this. I mean, it really is, it's something that's, it's a fairly simple skill. And people are always surprised and delighted to receive a handwritten note.
So let's move on then to emails as forms of written communication. How do you set your email up? Or
well,
how
emails,
does it differ from the letter?
Yeah,
or
emails are generally, the beginning and the end of an email should be structured exactly the way it would be if it were a letter.
Okay.
So in business, you put all of the information. You can even put your logo, the business logo, up on the top of the stationery. So you have instant stationery. You don't have to go out and buy boxes of stationery. Now, some places have boxes of stationery, and it's easy to stick it in the printer and have the thing come out, you know, on the stationery. But for those who want to have instant stationery, it can easily be done. So in business, emails are set up exactly the same way. If someone communicates with you via email, you should respond to them via email. That would be true of really pretty much any correspondence that you get. In whatever form you receive it is how you should respond. So oftentimes people will say, because everybody is so bloody and rushed and in a hurry these days, which is another discussion. But I think if we plan our days out a little more carefully and take time to breathe, we can actually get quite a lot more done than we think we can. And so if someone sends you a written communication, you send a written communication back. And if somebody emails you and it could be even an invitation. If they email you, they are indicating that they would like an emailed response. Because today it's much easier if you're having, say, if you're having a party for 500 people, say it's a charity event at the Beaverbrook or something, keeping track of a stack of 500 invitations is a different task than having it all on an Excel spreadsheet. And sometimes it's easier to use technology for, you know, than to, you know, say, well, I'd rather have it all handwritten. There are times when both makes.
Just for ease of for timing, you know, and efficiency, spreadsheets are always a good tool to use. You know, when you're dealing with a lot of people, you know, events that require a lot of people.
Now, another question comes up is to the different pace that responses would be expected, whether it be a handwritten note or an email. I find that with emails, if an email, it only takes a moment to send an email. It should only take a moment to respond. With a letter, it takes 2 or 3 days, at least, for the letter to get to you. So you kind of have a bit of leeway there. But emails, personally, I respond to every email that I receive every day, that day. I don't wait until the next day, unless it's something very unusual, or it's something that requires
some thought, maybe, or
well, no, not
planning.
Even thought. I mean, I make time
okay.
to. It's a priority for me to make sure that my correspondence is kept up with. If I put something off for a day, the day that I finally do respond, I respond and I say, I'm sorry, it's taken me so long, and then I give a short explanation. There really is you're not required to make an explanation, but I think it's the polite thing to do. Because if people send you an email, they are not doing it because they want to hear from you within a week. They want to hear from you at your earliest convenience. One of the nice things about emails versus telephone calls is that you can deal with them at your convenience. So if you're in the middle of a telephone call and 16 emails come in, well, you know, you deal with them when it's convenient. And like IE off the phone.
Yes, that's right.
And text messages would be the same kind of a thing. Those would be responded to immediately. And of course, I'm not of the era of the text message. So I receive text messages and I ignore them for the most part, because I'm just not used to, you know, to dealing with it. It's not the way to do it. You should respond with a message, you know, immediately. But I got a text message 2 days ago. Well, they know that I'm a bit lame when it comes to that sort of thing, so they're not really expecting to hear from me, but they are expecting to hear from me eventually. We'll say within a week. Right. But and I got, you know, I was over in England not too long ago, and all of a sudden you go outside of Canada with your Canadian cell phone, and it costs the earth. I mean, it's cheaper to stay at home. So
or change your SIM card or something.
Well,
you know,
I got lined up, organized. So, but somebody sent me a text message not knowing that I was in England.
Oh, yes.
And I said, do not send me a text message. I am in England, and roaming charges are stifling. So, anyway, I think for text messages are for emergencies. They're for quick little notes. They're an abbreviation, really, of the email, and I think that they're just sort of a quick catch-up, like, where are you now? I'll pick you up in 10 minutes kind of a thing, which is what they originally, I mean, that was their use. It was very handy. Now, you know, there's not a big leap from text messages or emails to social media, where there's a lot of communication done via Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So have we gotten any questions on?
Well, we do. Like with regards to texting, I guess, people abbreviate a lot of things. For example, I got a text message here just the other day from my niece, and she said, I'm feeling great. And it was GR and then the number 8. And that's how she spelled great. So, of course, I'm emailing her back and saying, you know, Eliza, it's great, GREAT.
Yeah.
But people are, there's a whole different way of spelling.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
there's
now
a whole
with text messaging.
Yeah, there's a whole text language.
And everybody is texting, like everyone. You'll see families, they're not talking, they're texting each other.
Yeah, well,
Or you'll see-
it's not a traditional way of communication, and it's not one that I particularly approve of.
Do you see
all
it
the time? I see it. I see people
becoming
sitting
more
at the dinner
popular?
table texting each other. It's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
I see that it is something that we are going to have to deal with.
Okay.
It is not going away.
Mm-hmm.
It does not supplant conversation at the dinner table. It does not change the way we should communicate certain kinds of information. I don't think that you don't text message, sorry, I'm seeing somebody else now. That's a face-to-face thing. You just don't text. You don't drop bombshells. Dropping bombshells is a form of bullying. And bullying happens way too much, especially in youth. But it can happen with adults also. And it is not right. And so I'm totally against that sort of thing. But I think that how I used Facebook, for example. I mean, I was a Facebook addict, and I was very involved in games on Facebook. And I'm glad that I've gotten over that now. But I find that what I put up on Facebook is I'll put up pieces of etiquette advice, because it's mostly a business thing for me. I'll put up I'll put up happy birthday greetings, because I find out whose birthday it is. I'll put up, inspirational quotations, or I'll share a particularly interesting news article that has to do with the environment, or saving wildlife, or women's rights, or whatever topic might be interesting to me. And if I find it particularly interesting, so I'll share that. So I find that to be really a useful platform for that. Twitter is not as useful, because you only have a short window of opportunity to see the tweet, unless you follow somebody so closely that they have their own sort of, you're organized to see every single thing that particular person wrote at any given moment. So I find tweets are more, I carefully time them.
Are you a tweeter?
Yes, and I have quite a lot of followers, actually. So I'm careful about what I tweet. I don't tweet, well, actually, occasionally. Like if I learned something, like the other day I learned that you cannot make Jell-O unless you use boiling water.
That's right.
Well, I didn't know that.
Oh.
Just regular water won't do.
No.
So if I, at my age, if I learn that something simple like that, I'll tweet that, because it's amusing. So a short little amusing thing like that I'll put up. But, that I've gone and had lunch, at George's with William is not something that anybody really needs to know. So I don't do that sort of thing. Now, LinkedIn, on the other hand,
yes, let's talk about LinkedIn. I'm not really familiar with LinkedIn, really.
That's more of a professional platform, where people who are like-minded around a certain topic will communicate. They'll share articles, they'll share opinions, they'll join different groups that are of like-minded people. So I may belong to as many as 20 or 30 different groups, but they may revolve around 2 or 3 topics. Like there are a number of etiquette and protocol groups that I belong to, and one, in fact, Image and Etiquette Consultants, is the largest group on LinkedIn on that topic. And I have almost 2,000 people that I monitor through that group that I have control over.
It's more of a learning tool.
Yeah, it's more
tool.
of like if I want to have the opinion of my peers, I'll put a question up and say, how do you handle an 8-year-old that throws food at the table? And then all the people who are experts in dealing with children's etiquette will chime in and say, well, this is what I do, and this is what I do, and this is what I do. So you can get quite a lot of good information fairly quickly. And so I think that, the social media is definitely a way of communicating using the written word. And I think it is going to hopefully overtake texting. I don't know, texting is one of those things that's just going to be here to stay, I'm afraid. But it's hard to know, because we're still in the infancy and people haven't sort of gotten over yet the novelty of it. And I'm hoping that the novelty will it'll settle someplace that's tolerable, that's not at the dinner table. Because I do not think that the dinner table is the place for that sort of thing. But at any rate, I think that it's important if you're gonna connect with someone through the written word, it's good to have in mind what you want to do. Make sure that you understand proper formatting so that you address envelopes properly, that you realize that it is a very personal note, and it's a lot of fun to receive. So use pretty note paper if you can.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can get, you know, there are plenty of places you can get beautiful note paper. So go to, there are even little shops that sell individual note cards, and they can be wonderful. So I always think that those are kind of fun, but be sure that you use the appropriate form of communication when you're going to do this writing. So whether it be handwritten, or whether it be a text, or whether it be an email, or whether it be one of the social media platforms, choose carefully and use it appropriately.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that information. This was quite an educational show, I think.
Well, thank you, Mary,
our
for
listeners enjoyed it too as much as I.
Well, I hope they did too. Thank you for joining me today, and Mary, thank you for coming down and co-hosting the show with me.
Always a pleasure.
I always look forward to talking to all of you viewers, and if you have any questions that you think that you'd like me to answer, feel free to contact me at jay@etiquetteguy.com. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.